Welcome to the live Money Talk podcast. We are here live every Monday, 4 p.m. And we go as long as short as we need to. Today is the celebration of my birthday. My birthday was last week on January 18th. And so I will have to go through this stream very quickly because I asked my wife if we could celebrate today instead of last week because there were some ride challenges that I wanted to hit, right? Sometimes you have to make some sacrifices in order to make the money, even if it's for a platform that you might think is not doing a good job taking care of you. So it is what it is. We'll go through my earnings. Here's a quick list of some of the topics I will hope to get to today. Now, I will be honest, there are a lot of topics. There are a lot of things to talk about. And I don't think we'll get through all of them. Whatever we don't do today, it'll be on the docket for next week. And so I'm going to do my best to get through as much of this today as possible. But the first thing I like to do when I jump on the podcast is to show you guys how much money I made, as well as how much money other drivers made last week. So I have a little personal goal where I'm trying to make $10,000. I'm trying to make $100,000 this year. I tried last year, and I'm going to reveal how much I actually made with my taxes when I get my tax documents together. But until then, I'm going to keep it a little secret. But I want to do $100,000 this year. And this is where we're at so far. This is the spreadsheet I made. It has all the money I made on it. But what I like to do first is I like to show people directly from the apps first, so that they don't think I'm lying or making things up, because I'm often accused of lying. So we'll start with Uber. I don't do a lot of Uber in this town. I don't think my town is a great town for Uber, though Uber has their instances where if you do Uber, you will have a high hourly rate. Like the Uber bonuses in my town, like the heat maps, are better than the Lyft heat maps, but Lyft is more consistent. It's more likely for me to see a $5 zone on the map with Lyft than it is with Uber. But when Uber is truly busy, I can see bonuses up to $20, $25, $30, when Lyft in my market caps their bonuses at $15. I've seen other people's bonuses at higher than $15, but in my market, it hasn't been over 15 in a while. It used to be 50, 50. Now it's just 15. So with Uber, I made $30.94 last week. That was on the 17th, 43 minutes, 48 seconds with one trip. That's it. Nothing crazy. I try to keep both apps running if I see some good deals. But for most of last week, I had a ride challenge for 120 rides from Monday to Friday. And so that took up most of my time on Lyft. If I prioritize platforms based off of who's given the best bonus, and then I'll split my time based off of who's given the most money, just period. So let's look at Lyft. With Lyft, Monday, January 15th, I did 29 rides, pretty much 10 hours online, 11 tips, about 30% tip rate, 215. Scroll up. I did a lot of short rides. Look at all these short rides with tip. A $3 ride, right? A $3 ride. The estimated time was 10 minutes. The actual was 10 minutes. The actual was 2.9. So that's 3 miles. Let's bring the calculator out. So 3 mile ride, we divide that by what? We made $8 on that ride. Nope, I did that backwards. Divide it by 3. So that's $2.6 per mile. And a lot of people argue with me like, yeah, don't take $3 trips. So they'll be like, oh, I don't let anyone in my car for less than $5. Then you would have missed out on this. And if I took your advice, I would have missed out on it. So getting tips on short rides is, even if it's a small tip on a short ride, it's better than taking like a medium range ride and getting like a $5 to $7 tip. Look, look at these, even this dollar tip, it's still fine because it's a short ride. I'm not spending a lot of gas on this ride. Look at this $5 tip, $3, $3 tip, $3 tip, $5 tip. And I'm talking myself into these tips. I'm very good with customer service. I probably need to make a video about it, but I have a really great ability for connecting with people very quickly in a short period of time. Like and connecting with people could also mean knowing when to shut up, right? It's not just about talking their heads off. So Thursday, January 18th, that was my birthday. This was the last day of the ride streak, and I had 5 minutes left to do the ride streak. Like, the day resets at 5 a.m. in my market. I finished, like, you can see my last ride. Like, I got it at 5. Sorry, not 5. I got it at 4. You see it up here. You can't see it up there because of the way I have my screen set up. So hold on. There we go. So you can see the last I got the ride challenge at 4:54 a.m. So like 6 minutes left, and it was for 260. Well, this half was for 260. The first half was for like 200 and change. And I asked people earlier this week if they would do this challenge. Some people said no, and I don't understand those people. But I did 35 rides, 12 hours, and I got $488.44 for it. I guess this is a late tip that just came in on Saturday. I didn't put this on my spreadsheet because I'm actually just seeing this. So I do need to go and put that on my spreadsheet. So I even though I had a ride challenge for significantly less, it was like $100 ride challenge for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I decided to chill. I took a few days off. I planned on working. I got a little lazy, if I'm gonna be honest with you, and I should have worked these days. Um, I don't really have a good excuse. There's other things I wanted to do. I saw my tax documents came from Uber and Lyft, and I wanted to like start focusing on those so that I can do my taxes on TurboTax, even though it's early, so I can get a video out as quickly as possible. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of my struggle comes with doing rideshare or doing YouTube. Like editing videos, planning videos, they all take a lot of time, which is kind of why I've switched to this format. Let me give you some inside YouTube right now, right? So I switched to this podcasting format. I intentionally go through the news. I pick out sources. I think about topics I want to talk to you guys about. And I try to be as structured with it while I'm live here. And then what I do is once I'm done with the live, I'll take the video down. I'll assign me and my editor video clips. We'll chop up those clips and then post them as individual videos. And if you were here long enough, you know that I like high quality videos so much that people think that I'm paid by Uber and Lyft to make them, but I'm not. I just like doing things to the best of my ability. But the format that I was doing before, it requires a lot of time. I would spend weeks editing just one video and then like put the video out, and it would typically do well, but it just wasn't feasible. And so if I wanted to continue my journey as a YouTuber in a way that makes sense and try to make $100,000 this year by putting in a lot of time with Uber and Lyft, I knew that I would have to change my content format, and this is why it's like this. Now, I will still give you guys those highly produced videos. They're gonna take time to make, and I'm prioritizing the shorter clips. But I'm still writing the scripts for them. I'm still doing research for them, and I'm still gonna come out with them. The next few that I do will be focused on taxes because that's pretty big. Sorry. And so I kind of took the weekend off to get ahead of my schedule so that I can try to get my tax documents ready so I can make a video showing you guys me filing my actual taxes. Like I'm going to record my screen, file my taxes with TurboTax so that I can kind of walk you through what you need to understand as a rideshare driver. And I want you guys to be comfortable knowing enough about rideshare to be able to do your own taxes, even if you don't want to. You can always jump on TurboTax, and they only charge you once you submit. So you can jump on TurboTax, figure out what your taxes will like, play around with it, see what it says, and you don't have to submit. You can always go to your tax professional and see what they do, see what their numbers look like, and then look at the discrepancy between your TurboTax and your tax preparer. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. So I'm just explaining why I got lazy with rideshare over the weekend. Now we're going to go and we are going to look at the spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet I made. You can get access to this by supporting me on Patreon. Don't think of it as you buying this for me. That's not what it is. For those who support me on Patreon, I'm going to be giving them goodies, right? There are other things that I'm going to develop and make that I'm going to give to my Patreon supporters. I might come up with a physical product that where if you've supported me for X amount of months, I will just ship it to you for free. So don't think you're buying this from me. That's not how it is. You are supporting me, and as a thank you for supporting me, I'm giving you the spreadsheet. This one is rideshare related. I'm gonna make a personal budget spreadsheet that I'm also gonna put on my Patreon. So the Patreon is in every link of all my videos. So if you want to support me, that's a great way to do it. So on this spreadsheet, I have my mileage here. I like tracking it. Like, so I know there's like apps that will track your location automatically and they'll do this, they'll do that. But with this, I like putting it in myself because there's no room for mistakes outside of myself. Like if I'm going to get audited and there's a mistake, I want the mistake to be my fault, not the app's fault. And if you trust Uber and Lyft to track all your mileage, I'm telling you right now, you're missing out on mileage. Any business mileage you drive that is with the app off won't be counted. So if you go offline to go and drive to like a hotspot, the app's not going to count that. But as far as the IRS is concerned, that's still business miles, and you want to track 100% of your business miles because it matters. It lowers your taxable income, and as rideshare drivers, we make money on our taxes. So keep that in mind. So you can see my mileage. I do need to update the spreadsheet to be more weekly oriented. This is kind of just monthly oriented, and I've seen the complaints. Like I would go through this. People don't really know what I made last week. So here's what I made in January so far, and not just last week, because I will edit it and make updates to it, but not right now. I'm too busy. Sorry, but it's on my mind. All right, so we're gonna quickly go through these totals once because I do have a Lyft referral in there for 920, and my personal goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year. That's like my top goal. My second goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year, not including referral fees. My third goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year, net, like after Uber and Lyft fees. And then my fourth goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year after expenses, right? So the easiest goal is at the top. And as I check that goal off, I'm going to focus on the other one. I'm going to reevaluate, look at how much time do I have left in the year to hit this and try to hit it. So that's what the plan is with that. So let's zoom in. I'm going to zoom in some more. Hold on. There we go. So the total so far for 3 weeks, first 3 weeks of January, is $4,854.94. Now, if let's do some $100,000 math. If I wanted to make $100,000 in 2024, I would say $100,000 divided by how many weeks in the year? 52. We have an extra day thanks to leap year. So I would have to make $1,923 every single week. Now we've just got done with week 3. So we'd multiply this by 3. And it says I need to have $5,769 in order to be on track to make $100,000 in 1 year. So if we subtract the amount we've made so far, 4854.95, I'm behind about $900, right? That's not bad. I'd rather be ahead. If I worked last weekend, I'd be either on par or ahead. If I did work over the weekend, I would have aimed to make about $400 a day. Whether I get it is let's be a little more modest. Let's say I earned $300 a day for 3 days. I'd be down $14. So it's still reachable. I'm gonna have to buckle down and get a little more consistent out. I don't want to be on target, and I definitely don't want to be behind. I want to be ahead enough to where if I need to take a day off or something happens to my car, I'm not stressing about it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the remainder of January to try to get let's try to be $500 ahead. And I don't know what that number looks like. Maybe I can calculate it real quickly and see how much days are left in the year. My calendar is not popping up. Okay, so there's 8 days to the 30th. I think January has 31 days. So I have 9 days left. I don't feel like doing the math right now. Sorry, guys. We'll just see if I hit it or not. All right, so let's before we even go run down, I'm gonna take the Lyft referral out so we can. I want it to be more realistic to you guys. I have access to getting more referrals than you guys do because I have a YouTube channel, right? New people come on my content all the time. They sign up for the referral, and I can show you, right? I am going to take this off screen so I don't show my location, but I'm going to show you how much I've earned in referrals over the years. Okay, here we go. So this is the referral screen. And you can see if I refer a new driver to Charleston, they'll give me $1,500 bonus. That's the highest I've ever seen it. Once they give 120 rides in 30 days. However, if someone outside of my area does it, it's going to be reflective on their market. So for example, if I go to pending, you can see Justin G. He just signed up. Go you, Justin. If you want some great tips on how to do this as quickly as possible, make sure you use your area filter. I have a video on it. It's called How I Doubled My Income with New Ride Streak Bonus. Use that video, use the tips in that video, and try to get a lot of short rides. Like I just showed you, I was able to get a lot of short rides. And then Cheryl B, she's only giving me $290 if she completes this. She probably won't complete it just based. She's at 8%, 11 days left, and that's okay. You try it, you decide you don't like it, and you want to stop. That's on you. But I will say, anyone who finishes this bonus and they show me that they are this person, I will give you 10% of whatever they give me. I think that's fair. I think that's okay. And I can show you the history. So because I have a YouTube channel, I've been able to reach a lot of people. That's like $8,000 in earned bonuses. And there's a lot of people who, I could have made more money. They didn't complete it. That's okay. Right? It's whatever. This is icing on top. I don't, I don't like base my life off of this. And this is over the course of 3 years. It's nice. It's just icing on top. But all that to say, I don't think it's fair for me to, like, when I break down my numbers, use my Lyft referral, because I want to. The goal of me doing this is to try to encourage people to put the effort in to make more money if possible. And effort isn't just time; it means putting effort into strategy and things like that. So it would be dishonest of me to be like, yeah, look at my effort, and then have my referrals in there. So I'm not doing that. So without my referral, I am at $3,934.95. And based off of simple math, that means I'm about $2,000 behind where I should be if I want to make $100,000 before the Lyft referral. So I need to crank that number up. I need to get to working. Even without the referral, you can see that I'm making $33.75 per hour, right? That's gross. After Uber and Lyft take their cut, this is how much money I'm making before my personal expenses, before taxes. I drove 3,256 miles, and that's going to show you how much I drove per mile. So I'm making $1.21 per mile. You have some YouTubers who are saying I make 30 cents per mile, 50 cents per mile. I don't know where they get their fake news from, but this is gross. So this is before expenses and taxes, right? And then we can go over. And then we have my expenses so far for this month is $295.25. This is a little misleading. It's not including my monthly recurring bills. Because this is kind of my first time doing it this month this way. I'm realizing a lot of mistakes and things I can improve on for February. So in February, at the start of the month, I'm going to list all of my known expenses, right? For some of you, it's going to be your car payment. I paid off my car, so I don't have that payment anymore. It's going to be your insurance. I actually just doubled my insurance because I got the Rideshare endorsement, so it went from $100 to $200. Um, for my personal accounting, I'm gonna put the first 100 as my personal insurance amount, the second 100 as my business insurance amount, so I can get a tax deductible on that. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know if that's how that works. I need to do more research, so take what I said with a grain of salt. My car wash, your monthly recurring expenses. I'm going to put that on the tracker first, and that way I'll have a clear cut idea of how much money I need to make at minimum in order to cover my recurring costs. So if you have the spreadsheet, I definitely recommend changing how you do it if you've been following and doing it the way I do it. But so far, this is all I've spent on that's not recurring. This is all I've spent. So I keep getting air. I know I have a slow leak. I haven't looked for it, and I am capable of fixing it myself. I'm being lazy. If it's in the sidewall, I won't even be able to fix it, and I'll just get a new tire at that point. But because I'm leaking air, and this goes for you too, if you don't have an emergency fund, you should be okay. Now, as I drive, I'm realizing I'm leaking air. I should save up for 2 new tires. Whenever you replace a tire, I always recommend replacing at least 2, just because of how the tires get worn down. You don't want one brand new tire on the front. So I always replace at minimum 2. So then I also built a little tax section to the spreadsheet where it takes my mileage, it multiplies it by the tax deduction amount, which is 67 cents in 2024. And then it shows you your taxable income by subtracting your mileage write off from your income. And then I assume a 10% rate. I'm going to change this soon. Once I do my taxes and I'm able to see how much money I made last year, how much money I took home from Uber and Lyft after they took their cut. And then I'm going to calculate from that, how much, what percentage of that did I have to pay in taxes? And then I'll use that here in my tax rate to get my estimated taxes, right? It's just estimated. So So my estimated taxes so far is $175, and that's on an amount of $3,934. It's not a lot. People like to say it's a lot whenever I make videos showing how much money I make. They're like, oh, you paid over half that in gas and expenses. Like I average, let's see, so far, and this will go up, right? But I paid $300 in expenses and I made $4,000. I expect this number to jump up to like maybe 450. So I'll be sitting in the 10 to 12% rate. So that means for every dollar I make, right? Every dollar I make with Uber and Lyft, I'm spending about 12 to 13 cents to make that money. Let me up those numbers. For every $1,000 I make with Uber and Lyft, I'll be spending about $120 to make that money. So with the amount of time aside that it takes to make that money, that's a good return on investment. Not a lot of businesses are running that. Walmart runs at like a 3% profit margin. I'm running at like an 85% profit margin on a bad day. So that's just to put those numbers into perspective. And then I also have it where it calculates your true net and your true hourly. So this is after expenses and after taxes. I make my actual carry home, the money that's actually going into my pocket is $3,464.36. My hourly is $29.72 after expenses and taxes. And guess what? Guess what? I'm able to maintain that. Let me pull this off screen for a second. I want to show you something. This is going to get the whole industry mad at me. This is going to have people saying negative things in the comments, but I don't care. I'm going to show you my acceptance rate. So here's my acceptance rate. I had to move it off screen because as you're navigating to your acceptance rate, it shows your license number, license plate number. I'm not trying to show you guys that. So let's switch this up a little bit. This is my acceptance rate right down here, 99%. I was aiming for 100, but I got a ride that would have taken me out of a bonus zone. It was like a 15-minute ride, and it was a time where I get a lot of quick rides. And as you can see, I only had 6 minutes left to hit the bonus, and it was on the last night. So if I had taken that ride, I would not have hit the bonus. And I really wanted to have 100% acceptance rate just for the sake of getting on YouTube and say, hey, I made this amount of money and still kept the high AR and still made profits. Like I'm operating at around a 10% expense ratio, which means I have like a 90% profit, which means I'm essentially 10x in my money. For roughly for every $100 I spend, I make roughly $1,000. That's 10x, right? 10 times 100 is 1,000. So that's pretty good, even though I have a 99% acceptance rate. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and make a 99% acceptance rate, but I do want to reiterate a thought process I've been having. And I think upfront pay, one, it was a disguise by Uber and Lyft to lower driver pay. I'm not skirting around that. But two, I don't think drivers have a good way to accurately identify what is a good and bad ride, right? Cherry picking is a strategy, but for some people, I don't. It's like the stock market, right? You can pick single stocks, but over time, if you look at the math, most people lose money picking single stocks. The people who typically make money doing stocks, they're buying index funds. And index funds are stocks that hold a bunch of different stocks together. So for example, you can hold an index fund that has stocks from the top 500 companies in America. The top 500 companies in America aren't going to fail all at once, but individual stocks can. And that's what kind of like what I'm noticing about cherry pickers. They want to pick the individual stocks, but they're doing a bad job of picking those individual stocks. Maybe they'll win sometimes here, but for overall, I don't think they're doing pretty well. It's usually people who are saying they cherry pick that aren't making a lot of money. Even Jeff Hoeing, who got on Show Me the Money podcast, who wrote his book about accepting every ride, he's making money, and a lot of people have negative things to say about him. But I'm not telling you accepting every ride is the strategy you should use, and I'm not saying cherry picking is the strategy you should use. I'm saying you should know have a good rule of when to use cherry picking or when to keep your acceptance rate up. So that's something you need to think about. People are going to call me the S word because of it. And it's what it is. I have my numbers in front of you guys. I'm showing you guys proof. And I would challenge you. If you're not making money right now, accept. So having a high acceptance rate is only part of the story, because I'm not being fully honest with you guys. I am cherry picking. I'm cherry picking the best times to drive, right? If I know I'm going to go and drive at the best time, at the best place, then the chances of those rides being better than other rides are better, right? If you drive during traffic periods, you probably should cherry pick. But my overall advice to you would be, don't drive during traffic periods, right? Because overall, you get stuck in traffic, it's gonna suck. But for me, I focus on cherry picking the best days to drive and the best times to drive. Now, I only drove 40 hours last week, and I made that. Let me hold on. Let me go back to it. All right, boom. One day, 40 hours. This is my book time. I don't want to see my book time. I want to see my overall time. When did they change this screen? This is not what I want to see. They're trying to hide the amount of time we're spending online. Online is what matters most. Do you have drivers out there that will tell you they made $40 an hour, but they're only looking at their book time? Book time is cool to look at, but online time is the most important thing. And I didn't realize it, but Lyft is hiding the online time. I don't like that. I don't like that. Let me see how I can figure this out. I don't like this at all. That's misleading. I don't like that. And then they put it in days. Like, come on, man. They want you to do extra maths to figure out how much money you're making per hour. I'm so disgusted right now. Let me see if it's in the weekly summary. It's popping up behind me. This is becoming complicated. This is unfortunate. Give me a second, guys. That's not. I don't like that. All right, so I'm gonna have to dive into that later. But I'm not a fan of. What's the point of just showing active time? What's the point of that? To hide, like, I don't like that. They're trying. I feel so whatever. All right, we'll move past that. But you guys can see, I'm telling you what my strategy is. I'm using the same strategy I tell you guys to use. I'm showing you how much money I'm making, and I'm being as upfront as possible. I also want to show you something else in my spreadsheet that I actually I put it at the bottom. I calculate my offline time. If I'm driving and this is my offline time. Offline. If I'm out there driving and I turn my app off, but it's to work, like I might be repositioning myself or I might be deadheading. I might have dropped the passenger off. I turn the app off and I need to deadhead back to downtown where the bonuses are. I start a timer on my watch and I calculate those offline times and I add it to my spreadsheet. Most of the drivers on YouTube who are telling you how much money they're making aren't doing this. And so when you're watching those videos, pay attention to that. Look at what time they started driving, look at what time they ended driving. And then when the number, their online time doesn't match up to that time, just do your own math in your head. You don't have to call them out for it. But it's not accurate to if there are some drivers who they'll sit down at a gas station, they'll wait for surges to pop up, and then they'll turn their app on. If they were offline for the sake of making time easy for an hour, and then they drove another hour, and then they made $50 for that time, they didn't make $50 an hour. They made $25 an hour. So that's something to as you're watching everyone's videos on YouTube, try to keep, focus on the math. Focus on making the math as accurate as possible. And that's what my goal is. And if there's something I can do to make my math more accurate, call me out. I'm all about accuracy. I don't mind. I might challenge you, right? You might think it's better. Someone told me that they think it's better to use the standard mileage deduction to calculate your actual expenses. He said if you drive 1,000 miles, and it's 67 cents per mile, then your expenses was $607. And To that, I responded, it will always be more accurate to calculate accurate numbers, right? People will disagree with that, and I just don't understand how. I don't know what more I can say. If you're running a business, it's better to have accurate numbers. You can't just be lazy and just use the standard mileage. The standard mileage deduction is an average of expected expenses per mile for all independent contractors, including truck drivers. Truck drivers have to spend more money to keep their truck moving, right? It's probably the same thing for construction drivers. Rideshare drivers can operate at the lowest end of that spectrum. And so we can pocket the difference in tax-free income. So using the standard mileage deduction as like a base for calculating all of your potential expenses is a terrible idea. And you should use your actual expenses, right? Because I even calculate mine per mile. I'm at 9 cents. Now, okay, again, all of my expenses aren't in here yet, but just using this number for the sake of argument, you know, I'm running my business like 50 cents better per mile than the government thinks I should. So if I were to use the standard mileage deduction to calculate whether I am or am not profitable, I will have a false notion of what my actual profitability is. And we don't want to do that. So now that I showed you guys so now that I've shown you guys how much money I'm making, let's compare how much money I've been making to how much money other people make using the Solo app. The Solo app is in the description. Um, if you click on it, you get some free money if you sign up. It's free to sign up, but if you pay for their plan, I think they give you like $15 back, making your first month free technically. So you pay for it, they'll give you $15, and it's a good app. It's a good app to see how much people are making in your specific market. Let me go and jump to it. So this is it. It's a Solo app. Before we even jump into the leaderboard, I want to address something someone brought to my attention. So this is fake. And the reason I say it's fake is because I did a test. Right? I'm not. Hold on. There we go. So this is Solo. So I did a test, and in this test, I put in myself that I made $1,000. Right? I put that on January 17th. January 17th, I made $1,000. This isn't coming from any of the apps. This is something that I just put into the app, right? And I wanted to see that if I put in this extra money, will it show up on the leaderboard, right? So let's go to the leaderboard. We go to insights down here. We go to leaderboard right here. We see I made $1,398, which is what I made with Lyft, right? So I just showed you guys that I made that amount of money with Lyft. I'll show you guys again really quickly. See weekly breakdown. All right. So this doesn't include what I've made on Uber, which is fine. $1,367.16, right? So if this was Solo, it would show that I've made at least $2,398 because of that extra $1,000 I put in. And I'm pointing this out because I had a comment saying that anyone could put in numbers into this leaderboard. So I tested it and I found that that is not true. The leaderboard only takes income directly from the apps that you have attached to the app. I have my Uber account attached. I have my Lyft account attached. I have my DoorDash account attached. It only pulls numbers, right? So these are true numbers. So even though I took Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, the busiest days of the week, I still made more money than everyone else in my market that has this app. This, only people who have this app will show up here. So that's one thing I really want to point out, right? Let's go to jobs up here. It shows you what the average person is making in your market per hour. You see Uber, $18 an hour, Uber Eats, $16 an hour, Lyft, $15 an hour, DoorDash, $14 an hour. Right? So I'm showing you this because it's an indication. You can see how much money I'm making, and then you see how much money is showing up here, right? You can go here. Again, this is my average hourly without Lyft referrals, $33.75. Even after taxes and expenses, $29.72. That is like double, literally double what the average Lyft driver in my market is making. Why? Why? This is what I want you to start asking. This is why I love this app so much. It lets drivers look in their market to compare how much money they're making to how much money other people are making. And my why isn't rhetorical. If the why is because they have a better car than you, or they're driving X, or they're driving at this time, or they're not doing airport rides, you need to solve that why in order to make more money. I drive a Volkswagen Jetta. It does not qualify for comfort. It doesn't qualify for XL. It doesn't qualify for Uber Black. It is a regular Lyft and Uber X. That's it. That's it. So I want you guys to figure out why. That is your homework. So let's look at the leaderboard. So let's look at the leaderboard for all metros. Now, I'm jealous. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am jealous of these drivers right now. Jealous. Philadelphia, $4,668 last week. Newark, New Jersey, $4,477 last week. Worcester, Massachusetts, $4,161. Arizona, $3,862. Miami, Florida. I get a lot of drivers complaining they can't make money in Miami. $3,843. Right? Rochester, New York, a little city not too far from Niagara Falls, shares one of the lakes with Canada. $3,603. Are you realizing a trend yet? I'm gonna tell you the trend very soon. Philadelphia. I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. $3,589. Bridgeport, Connecticut. $3,253. Newark, New Jersey. $3,226. And number 10, Richmond, VA. $3,088. I have to stress. This is just people who have the app. This isn't everyone. So there could be people who've made more money than this. But with the exception of Miami and Arizona, all of these areas are in the Northeast, and they have had massive snowstorms. So driving during these snowstorms, you have to make sure you have the right car. You want to make sure you have the right tires. It is a risk. These drivers, they went out there, they took the risk, and it's paying off for them. If I lived in a climate that produced more risk, I think I would, depending on my car, I would always weigh safety every hour that I'm on that road. But you might not think it's worth it, and that's okay. Being safe is important. But when you live, I'm from New York City, so I'm used to snow weather. Just because it snowed doesn't mean your day stops. But a lot of other drivers might not want to drive, which will decrease driver supply, and then people will be less likely to walk, which will increase demand. People will also order food more often, which increases demand. So this is something to keep in mind. But let's see how many drivers on this app made more money than I made. I made 1,398. So let's see how many people made over $1,400 last week. Might be scrolling for a little bit here. Yeah, the East Coast killed it though, man. Absolutely killed it. Yeah, we're still scrolling here. So Asheville, Baltimore, Seattle. We're starting to see a little bit of West Coast pop up. Atlanta's here. Los Angeles is here. And I'll compare just Los Angeles in a second. Some California's. A lot of people made more money than me last week. I only work Monday through Friday, Thursday actually. So I could have made a little more. I could have been a little higher in this list. The point I'm making here is I'm not saying that because drivers were able to make money that Uber and Lyft still isn't taking advantage of us. They made money on something that isn't consistent, but in a world where we are seeing decreasing pay, we're gonna have to step out of our comfort zones where possible and stack that money. And when you make that money, you need to be intentional about how you save that money. So 291 people made more money than me last week. But we ask why. And most of it is because of the weather. I'm in an area that doesn't experience snow. So I'm not going to see the demand that these guys see. I'm in a tourist area. So if those people are trapped in their cities, they're not coming to my city. In fact, if it gets too cold, the students don't even leave their dorms. So it gets slower in my city. So always analyzing the why behind the numbers is how you create a plan to bridge the gap, or if the plan is even bridgeable, right? You might not, you could live 4 hours from one of these towns. And if I lived 4 hours from one of these towns and I saw a snowstorm was coming, and I knew I would be able to drive in that town despite being from South Carolina, I might go to my wife and consider, hey, um, let's go and rent a cheap hotel or cheap Airbnb for this weekend or for the week. And I just want to go work here and make some money, right? That sounds like a desperate thing to do, but it's okay to be desperate. These are desperate times. I think we're heading into a rideshare recession. We're already in a real recession. We're seeing pay decrease. We're gonna have to get a little more creative and step outside of our boundaries a little more in order to make money. And that's just I don't I'm not gonna sit here and say that we should or shouldn't have to do that, right? Because I don't want to confuse how the world should be with how the world is. I'm usually focused on how the world is. How can we respond to how things are currently going in order to make a plan, right? And it currently, pay is decreasing. It's becoming harder to make money. The drivers are getting saturated. So, what can we do despite those things happening to us to make money? And these are the things you have to consider. If there's going to be a big concert 2 hours away, Taylor Swift is coming. She's doing a 3 night concert. You go rent a hotel. It's a gamble. It might not surge the way you think it is. You might lose money, but you're going to have to take some risk in order to make some money. But you have to determine what risk you're comfortable making. Let's do a quick look at LA and then we'll move on. I don't want to stay here too long. I feel like I've been here too long already. My God, the scrolling is insane. I'm just gonna close the app and reopening it because oh my God, it's so bad. So bad. All right, solo. Again, the link for this is in the description. It's called like how to see how much other drivers are making in your market. It's down there. Use it. All right, here we go. So we're gonna go to insights, leaderboard. I just like looking at LA because I know that there are a lot of drivers in LA. We already know the East Coast did very well. So let's just see what you guys are doing over there on the West Coast. I have Las Vegas in my head. I don't know why. All right, so the top driver in California made 2,200. Second made 2,000. They didn't do great last week. They didn't do great. These numbers aren't that great for California. 1,000, 1,000 here. Let's look at what they did last week. So last week, yeah, see, last week we had more people making a little more, but not significantly more. 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Well, let me know in the comments. How much do you guys think a rideshare driver should be making at minimum in Los Angeles? Let's assume they're operating at a 15% expense ratio, right? We'll give them an extra 5% because they do have higher taxes. They still shouldn't be paying too much in taxes, but they do have higher gas bills as well. So you let me know. You let me know in the comments. And actually, I'll take a couple seconds. We'll look at the comments, and then I have to do a correction about some information I put out last week, and then we'll start diving to some of these news stories. We have about an hour, 15 minutes left before I have to go and celebrate my birthday with my wife. We're making sushi. She got me an ice cream cake. It's her first time having an ice cream cake, and she left it out. She forgot to put it in the freezer. It didn't melt. I caught it, but it was so cute. But yeah, comments. Let's see who's here with us. Ooh, the comments, they're popping right now. All right, let's go. Let me zoom in so you guys can see. I'm also blind, so I need to see as well. It is not zooming in. Now, give me a second, guys. I'm gonna fix this. This is not where I go to fix it. This is where I go to fix it. There we go. There we go. Nice, big, and bold. Okay. All right, we're going to run through the top as quickly as possible. The Driven Dad says, I don't know what he says because it's too zoomed in. All right, hold on. Let me make sure I get this right. YouTube's like streaming software isn't as good as like Twitch or other platforms, so bear with me. I think, is this good size? No, it's a worse size. Okay, I'm gonna try something else. All right, pop out chat. And let's see if this works. Then blow it up. I'm gonna zoom in, go to the top. I see Mike B's comment. All right, so we're just gonna keep it here. I'll figure out something for later. So Mike B says, "Is the solo app free?" The solo app is free. You will not be able to see the leaderboard on the free plan, but you can still see what the average driver is making without paying for anything. They do give you, if you pay $15 for the subscription, I think it's $10. I don't know how much it is, but they'll reimburse you that through PayPal for the first month. So you can try it for a month, and if you don't like it, don't pay for it. I'll always come on here and I'll show what I can. So if you don't want to pay for it, you just want to tune into me showing you, I got you. I got your back. Mike B says, I have a horrible ride challenge, $25 for 40 rides. What is Lyft doing? That is pretty bad. But do you usually do 40 rides? It sucks. It sucks. I don't like, at that point, why even offer? I'd rather have a ride challenge than a ride streak for $25, because then at least I have the opportunity to potentially hit it twice, you know? Anthony Abrams says, hey bro, loving all the content you put out for us. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was worried that my new content strategy wouldn't be well received. And I'm glad people are enjoying it. It's not the content I primarily want to be putting out, but I wanted to figure out a content strategy that gives me the ability to, one, connect more often with my audience, and two, stay more in tune with the news surrounding rideshare. Anthony says, I'm trying to decide to move either Las Vegas or Pensacola, Florida. Can you check weekly earnings in both cities? I'm sorry, I will in the future. I'll do it next week. I don't want to do it today because I'm running low on time. Next week, I'm going to have a much longer show and I can do that for you. I'm going to move to Vegas. I do think Vegas is a better place to be for it. But Vegas is seasonality, right? Right now it's cold over there. They're not going to have a bunch going on. But Vegas is growing and they're building a high speed train that goes from Las Vegas to LA. And I think that's going to create a boom for drivers. So I do think Vegas is a great place to be for it. Vegas has more rules. You have to get like your business license and do this and that. Florida's a little more do whatever you want. Pensacola, that's like what, on the peninsula, I think. If it is, it's probably also going to be I think Vegas is a better market, period, than Florida. Most towns, most cities in Florida, but Vegas has more restrictions. That's where you moving from. I'm more interested in where you're moving from. Mike B says, I wish this whole app showed you how many hours these people worked. That would be cool. That would be cool. Maybe I'll email them and give them that suggestion. The Driven Dad says, good afternoon. The Driven Dad also says, fought through RSV and ended up making 2,100 last week, even though I couldn't work a ton. I had that last year and it's bad. And then the worst part is that lingering cough. Like, you might not be contagious, but who wants to have passengers, while you're coughing, you know? So I hope you get better as quickly as possible. Getting sick sucks. Mike B says, because if you're doing 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 84 hours, and you're only getting 2,000, it's not good. I'm going to say there are aspects of that is not good. And then there are aspects of that is good, right? So if you need to make a minimum amount of money per week in order to live, there are not a lot of jobs that you can get that's going to allow you to work essentially up to 18 hours a day. So you can work up to 18 hours a day. I get people, I'm not saying you should, right? But there could be something that happens, like, your kid or your wife, they might need surgery and insurance is not covering it. And you might need, $2,000 as quickly as possible. So go and do that. You can work 18 hours. I'm not telling you to do it, but you can go and work 18 hours every day and make money, even if your hourly rate is very, very bad. So in the sense of Times are getting hard. It's getting harder to make more money per hour than it has been before. You still have the capability to go out and make that money. Now it's gonna suck. It's gonna be a pain in the butt, and the hourly is gonna look like trash. Should it be that way? No. But I like having the option to do that, right? That if an emergency pops up, I can just put my head down, grind, make the money, even if the hourly pay isn't a lot. Because you can even get a job that pays better per hour, but that job, most jobs aren't going to let you go over 40 hours. Most jobs will not let you go over 50. I used to do seasonal on Amazon, and when you start getting close to 60, that's where they tell you, nope, go home, bye. You can't work anymore this week. So I'm not saying that you should do this. I just like that, when push comes to shove, and if someone's losing their mortgage, I expect them to be in their car 12 hours a day at minimum. 12 hours a day, 365, unless you just sell your house. Either you sell do not lose your house, right? I'm getting off tangent here. But I just want to be clear that yes, it does suck. But for me, I want to pay off all my debt before the year ends, right? I've already done the math. Once I'm debt free, I know that I can survive off of, like, what was it? 3,000. My whole household, me and my wife, can survive off of less than $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year, right? So I know that I will be able to hit my goal quicker putting in 60, 70 hours a week with Lyft than if I were to get another job. It would take me a lot longer. Even if I got a job that paid better per hour, it would take me more longer to do it, because that job probably isn't gonna won't let me work as many hours as I want and have the flexibility to do that. So I think rideshare is a great stepping stone. If you want to sprint to a financial goal, I I don't think there's anything better than rideshare, right? There might be things that pay better and might give you overtime. They might require certifications. They might require degrees, and those things can take up to like 2 to 4 years, which is fine. If you want to do that, do that. But if I were to finish my computer science degree, I would have to invest time into completing that computer science degree before I could go and start making that money. Or I could put my head down, work very hard for a year, pay off my debt, and then guess what? Once I'm debt free, I can now pursue whatever I want, because my living expenses are so low that I can work. If I let's assume me and my wife split finances. We don't handle our finances like this. We Every dollar I earn is our money. Every dollar she earns is my money. But let's assume I'm responsible for coming up with, and I want to show proof. I want to show you that I'm not talking out my ass, and I'm going to show proof. Where do I go to show proof? Hold on, I gotta do some stuff off screen. I'm going to show you guys my monthly spending. You know what? I can do it on my phone. Yeah, I can do it on my phone. So I'll just pull it up on my phone. By pulling it up on my phone, I have an app called Windows Link where it syncs wirelessly with my phone, and it pulls up all the apps on my phone. That's how I'm able to show you guys my Uber and Lyft. So if you have a PC at home and you know, check out Phone Link, you might find it useful. It appeared behind me. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna do past 3 months. Okay, so here's my spending for the past 3 months. All right, there we go. So my spending for the past 3 months. Can't really zoom in too much here, but you can see this is all debt. So right, anything that's in this color is debt. We've been on a massive like push to just pay off all our debt this year through 6 months. All right, so we started using this in October. We got married in September, combined our finances, and then this is like the progress we've made so far. Uh, the light blue one, that's housing. There's some fluctuations there. I'm not sure why. And then the dark blue is food. And you can see that, like, once we have no debt payments to go, we'll probably hover, like, this is 3,000 right here. We'll definitely hover for like our minimum lifestyle at 3,000, right? So if I needed to make $1,500 every month just to hit my minimums, I could probably do that just working 2 days a week, working the two busiest days of the week with Uber and Lyft. I can just work Friday, Saturday night, probably 4 hours. If I work the busiest 4 hours, I could probably average probably about $40 an hour. Let's break out the calculator that I closed. All right, calc. So if I do $40 an hour on the two busiest nights, 4 nights a piece, that's eight total. So that's $320 per week. And let's assume 4 weeks to a month times four. Okay, that's still short. I probably have to throw in 3 days, right? And on those other days, let's say I'm making $30 an hour instead, because they're not going to be as busy as Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we say $30 an hour times, so plus times, oops, nope, plus $30 an hour times, it's not doing what I wanted to do. But you get the point. You get the point. I'm not about to rerun this through my head. But and then with all the other free time I have, I can be a YouTuber. I can get my pilot's license. I can go back and do a 6-month boot camp for coding computer science. So I'm sprinting to get to this goal that will enable me to have more freedom and free time. And other drivers will make fun of me. They'll call me the S word. I hate saying it. I hate the comparison, but I am not as concerned with what Uber and Lyft are taking from me, as long as I can still achieve my goal, right? And it might hurt more. I might have to put more effort into it, but the best way that we as drivers can hurt Uber and Lyft is to put ourselves in a financial position to where we don't need them ever again, right? Instead of striking on Valentine's Day for one day to send a message. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, because it does. It has an effect. But just like how the actors strike last year, the writers for SAG-AFTRA, or however it's pronounced, they striked for months without pay. Drivers aren't going to do that because they can't afford to do that. We didn't grow up planning to be a rideshare driver. We fell into this, and that's okay. I didn't plan to be a full-time rideshare driver. Life happens. And so it's okay if you can't afford to strike long term, but I would challenge you to put yourself in a position to where if you wanted to, you don't need to turn these apps on. That's kind of where I want everyone to be. So we'll keep moving forward. The Driven Dad says discount tire will fix for free. Yeah. The people I do, they're called Gerald Tires here in Charleston. They will fix it for free. But the last time I got a flat tire, it was at 3 a.m. If I changed the tire, I put the spare on myself. I drove to the gas station. I have a video of me doing this. I was recording. I drove to the gas station. I patched it myself. I filled it back up with air, and in 40 minutes, I got to continue, and I hit my ride challenge. So, yes, I can get it done for free, but that takes time. Taking it to them, waiting for it. I like to have the ability to do it myself, because it happens frequently. It's happened frequently enough to where I'm like, I just got to learn to do this myself. The Driven Dad, 90% AR using area filters when you get a 6-day isn't the same as 98 on Uber when you get sent whack mileage for low pay. Uber, all right, so I expect people's acceptance rate on Uber to be lower because their stay within an area filter isn't as great as Lyft's. Lyft's is a radius, right? You pick the radius to stay in. Uber separates it by like geographic locations, which isn't always ideal, right? And I would show you guys on the map, but I don't want to spend time doing it. But the way they segment their geographical features is horrendous. So I expect people who drive for Uber to have a lower acceptance rate. Mike B says, why is it so hard to use the rate card system, but just show all the information like upfront fare thing does? I don't know. I was talking to Jeff Hoeing today. He messaged me on Facebook, and we were talking about, he asked me if I think that Uber and Lyft price things different for different markets. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they do. At least, and I think that's justified. I think pricing things for different markets is justified. The unjustifiable part is that they're now like hiding it from us, right? If you're gonna do it But be honest with it, be straightforward. I think they should go back to the rate cards. I don't understand. From not it's just they should go back to the rate cards. Tomcat says, "What kind of cars are you using? What kind of car are you using?" So I guess it's for me. I'm driving a Volkswagen Jetta, man, 2017. Basic stuff here. I bought it for $13,000, and it's made me over $100,000 in the 2 3 years that I've had it. I'm pretty happy with it. The only issue I've ever had with it was the wheel speed sensor went bad. It was being grinded down by something that was on my wheel. It cost me $500 to fix, and that was it. Everything else has been either I just had to get a new battery. I've just been spending money on oil changes, and I'm not stupid. I am starting to save up money for a second car or for a large repair, right? I think that eventually, even if you have a car that works very well, you should be putting money aside for a rainy day, like putting together an emergency fund. I'm going to create a plan that can be repeated for different rideshare drivers and make a video about it, but I haven't really sat down and listed it out yet. But I want to do that for you guys. Tomcat, oh yeah, I just answered that. I can only take Uber, like I can only take regular Lyft and Uber X. Yeah, like the Driven Dad says. Yeah, I'm doing pretty decent, but like I showed you, my market's okay. Right now we're in down season. During peak season, my market's pretty good. But my market is like ranked 168 in terms of population in America. I know that if I went to bigger cities using strategies, I could out earn other drivers, even in like saturated markets, because my market's saturated too. Like it's I think that a lot of it comes to strategy, and strategy can cap out. Like no matter what you do, you can have the best strategy in the world, you can still cap out. But every driver should be near that cap out limit. Your strategy should be putting you in the top 3 to 5 drivers every week in your market if it's your goal to make as much money as possible. That's not everyone's goal. Some people just want to make their minimum, the weekly minimums, and that's okay. Nothing against you guys who are doing that. But if you're working a lot and you're barely surviving, you should be working more often, and you should be top 3, top 5. That is my hope for people who watch my content. I can't pull up all the leaderboards today. I'll do that next week. Do have limited time, and like how I flow on these live streams dictate whether I fall behind or not in my content. I post a video every single day, and the more news stories I'm able to cover during my live streams, the more videos I can put out, and the more videos I can put out and get ahead is the more I can drive and make my $100,000 happen. And today, my wife wants to celebrate me for my birthday, so I am hardcore cutting the stream off at around 6 o'clock, which gives us less than an hour. So I'm done with the solo part for today. Next week, come in here, tell me the cities you wanna do, and I'll do them. Happy birthday! Thank you. The Driven Dad. There's this thing that we have in Jamaica called Buckley's. It can be really hard to get sometimes, but it tastes like Vicks. It's disgusting, but it works. It can be a little pricey. It's like $20 a bottle. Get it, get it. It's called Buckley's. I promise. Nate's one of my creator friends that I'm actually met in real life. Being a creator can be a lonely atmosphere, and so I've joined groups with other creators, and Nate's one of my creator friends. Nate, I hope you're doing well, man. Driven Dad says our house of 6 kids is like 900 a week essential budget. Is that like is that just food? And to me, that's the first thing I thought about was food. 900 a week, is that including mortgage or rent or whatever? Does that include all of your non-business expenses, right? 918, 36, 4 grand a month. I would say 4 grand a month is a lot. I know you're married. I know your wife does work as well sometimes. Um, 4,000 is a lot, but 4,000 for these 6 kids, which is 8 people. I don't even know if you have more adults in there, but 8 people. If you're able to do 900 a week on 8 people, I think you're killing it, man. You are. That's a lot of money, but I think for that amount of people in your household, you're doing a great job. You must run your budget very, very lean. You're trying to you go watch his content. Go to the Driven Dad. Go watch his content. Um, and it just he's a hustler, like the good kind. Like he'll put the hours in. He's taking care of his family, and I love to see it. Alessandro says, "Props to you for that ish." with the tire. Oh, thank you for clarifying, because I was gonna pop up and say that. Yeah, man, I'm trying to do a little more to do my own services. Like I'm gonna show you guys something. I'm gonna make a video on it, but I'll show you guys. So I just got these ramps. You guys can't hear me. I'll just show you and I'll talk. So it's like it's. Uh, so yeah, I just got those ramps because I want to start doing my own car work where possible. Um, these this that will help me get my car up and do my own oil changes. I'm paying like $100 for my oil changes at Jiffy Lube, and I did the math. I can do them for $40 myself, like between the oil and the oil filter. And I got to show you another thing. Hold on. So I've never changed my oil before, and this is my first time. And when I do, I bought this valve, right? I'm gonna put it where the oil drain is, so that in the future, instead of having to use tools to drain the oil all the time, I can just hit this valve and the oil will come out. So to make my oil changes a lot easier, this costs like $30. It's made in Japan, and I can just put a hosing tube on top of it, so the oil comes out of the tube and then goes into whatever container I put it in. So it's gonna make oil changes a lot faster, a lot easier, and I'm gonna be able to save $40. And not just on my car, right? I have two cars in my household. Both cars are paid off, and I'll be able to change my wife's oil. So I'll save about $60 on my car. I'll save $60 on her car, and of course, I get oil changes a lot more frequently. I probably need to do it twice a month with the amount I drive. So I'm looking for ways to cut on expenses, and I want to challenge you guys to do the same. Whenever something's wrong with my car, sometimes I'll take it to the dealership and I'll say, "Tell me what's wrong with my car." I have a scanner. Scanner doesn't always tell me everything, so I let them tell me what's wrong with my car. I'll pay the hundred and whatever dollars. That's what this fee is. I'm out of breath because I'm out of shape. So this expense right here, this maintenance expense, what happened to my maintenance expense? I think I deleted it. It was like for 170. Sometimes I told you weren't super accurate here. That's fine. Mistakes happen. So maintenance, I spent about 170, and that was just a diagnostic. Now, if I let them fix it, they would have worked this fee back into the fix, and I have a month before that allowance goes away. But I decided that, I looked on YouTube and I said, you know what, I think I can put in the sensor myself, and the sensor is $100. They're trying to charge me $700 for the sensor and the work, and I decided I'm gonna do it myself. And not every time do I decide that. Sometimes I said, okay, this scope is beyond what I can do, and I'll just suck up and pay it. But I want to challenge you guys to start, doing what maintenance you think you can yourself. Go and learn. Spend the time to learn. You'll save more money just by spending the time and learning. Even as says, happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you. If you ask, go drive through, what is your reaction? I don't do drive throughs anymore. If it's a really slow day and they offer me food, I'll consider it. But I don't do drive-throughs anymore. When I was a young buck at this game, I did, but not anymore. They can do DoorDash. They can order their food. But straight up, nah. Mm-mm. And if there's a stop, as soon as I pick the person up, I ask them what is the stop, and if they say the stop's a grocery store, I before they get out of my car, I say, I'm gonna wait here for X amount of minutes, right? And I might be lenient. If I like the person, we chopped it up, or if they have kid, I'm more lenient with certain passengers than I am with others. I might hang around for 10 minutes. That's not all the time. If it's busy, I'm not doing that. Um, but always be specific, right? before they leave your car, ask them how long do you plan on taking, and make them give you a number. They don't give you an actual number to agree or disagree with. You set the number, and I found that setting a number is it's okay, but it's better to set a time, right? If it's two p.m. and they say they need 5 minutes, 5 minutes to everyone is different. 5 minutes isn't 5 minutes for everyone. You say, okay, I'm gonna leave at 2:10. Tomcat, can I share the link of the valve? Yeah, I can. I should. I will. And I'll do that now because I know I'll forget. Hold on. It's on Amazon, so you can order it on Amazon. I'm definitely going to send you my Amazon affiliate link. So, in fact, I'm going to put the Buckleys in here for the Driven Dad. And then, hold on. I got to do it off screen because I don't know if it's going to show my address or not. Give me a second. I'm going to just change this to full cam. All right, give me a second. Give me 1 second, guys. I don't even know if you can. I'm gonna skip ads. I'm gonna skip the ads. I don't know if you guys can click on this link. If you can you click on it? This is for the cough. Yeah, you guys should be able to click on that. And then I'll get the it's called a Fushimoto valve. Make sure when you're buying this product that you're looking at the thread. You need to make sure the thread matches the thread of your car, right? That's like because there's different sizes, obviously. Even if you don't buy the specific valve I send to you, just by clicking the link and buying something on Amazon gives me a cut. So it doesn't matter if it's the specific link or not. Kishimoto uh, oil valve, and I watched a lot of reviews on it. Whenever I purchase anything, I watch as much as possible. So do your own research. They have different types of valves, so make sure you have the correct one and the one that fits your risk factor. And I'm still looking for it. Okay. Get link. Here we go. All right, so valves. So if you work on your own car, definitely recommend getting this valve. It'll make it so you just in and out with the oil. I do have some sockets. Turbo. Have you talked about turbo bonuses yet? I have not talked about turbo bonuses, but it is in my notes. I did see it. I'm not a fan. I need more information. Sometimes I'll hold off on things until I try them myself and it's not in my market, but I don't currently have enough information. I'll probably save it for next week. We haven't even started talking about news. We've just been talking about money so far. And it's time to talk about some news when you got 45 minutes left. I'm ending at 6 o'clock to go and celebrate with my wife my birthday, which was last week on the 18th. So let's start diving into some of these news stories. We're definitely not going to get through all of them. I put the important ones at the top, and whatever doesn't make it to this episode, it will make it to next week's episode. So we're going to start off with the. Don't we want to do this? Yeah, we'll start off with Lyft, the $5 minimum charge per ride in the Twin Cities Metro. We're gonna begin with that. Let me get comfortable. All right, so I'll do my best to respond to comments. I might not respond to as many today because they do take time, and when I do respond to comments, it's usually in between articles. So just be aware of that. So it looks like this is the most I'll be able to zoom in without cutting things off. Okay. Rideshare company Lyft on Tuesday announced a new $5 minimum charge per ride for trips within the metro area. The same minimum was enacted by rival ride-hailing company Uber last year and is in line with a recommendation from a state task force. I didn't know that. However, the change is unlikely to quell calls for increased pay and protections for drivers by driver group and elected officials who say drivers are underpaid and exploited. So this is like I think this is Minnesota or Minneapolis. I think is it Minneapolis, Minnesota? But they're the biggest city that are currently in the middle of a battleground for like better pay. They're striking their butts off. They had like one of the governors had to actually veto a change that was supposed to be happening. Uber and Lyft are they're trying to make this change not happen. They're trying to have like new minimum mileage rates, and minimum hourly pay for active time, similar to New York and Seattle. So they're fighting for that too. The same minimum was enacted by, we just read that. Last year, state lawmakers approved a plan that went further in increasing pay for drivers, but it was vetoed by Tim Walz, just told you guys, who established the task force instead. So the task force, and I think this is fine. I think as a government official, you should create laws based off of facts and statistics and not emotion. I do think that it was right for Tim to say, let's slow down, create a task force to figure out what the pay should actually be. But a percentage of my soul thinks, Uber and Lyft are in the pockets of Tim. It sounds crazy. It happens. I have no proof, but a percentage of my soul is wary about that. Tim Walz, who established the task force instead, a similar plan also included a $5 per ride minimum, which was approved by Minneapolis City Council in August, but Mayor Jacob Frey vetoed it. That's rough because I think $5 minimum is fair. It's not even that far from the $3 minimum in a lot of cities. He cited the unfinished work of the task force, which included drivers and representatives of the major ride-hailing companies known as transportation network companies. Last month, the task force completed its work. Curious, but did not make recommendations on the most contentious issue, minimum pay rates, that would effectively boost hourly wages for drivers by establishing minimum rates per minute and per mile. At least one state lawmaker and several Minneapolis City Council members has said they plan to continue to push for such minimums to be codified in statute or ordinances. The task force did recommend establishing the $5 minimum charge for riders that begin and end in the metro area. So it's pay attention to the wording here. It says the task force did recommend. So Lyft increased it based off of the recommendation. So it's not a law. It's just something the task force recommended. Additionally, on Tuesday, Lyft also, and you know what? I want to focus on this task force a little more. In New York, they have something called the Taxi Limousine and Commission entity. It's kind of a government body that operates independent of like the state or the city, and they cater for both passengers and for riders. That's how they worked with the one of the government bodies of New York City to get that minimum wage floor going. So I've been telling other people, we kind of spoke a little bit about, should government be interfering with rideshare, or should we just, as independent contractors, let it happen how it happens? In fact, and I'll show you guys after this article, I went on Pedro DoorDash Santiago's podcast last night, where we talked about whether we agree or disagree if government should get their hands in rideshare. And I can see both sides, but I think that what the structure of New York, where there's an entity that is the middleman between drivers and the government, I think that's working very, very well. So this task force, it's more government based than I would like for it to be, but I think it's a good idea for rideshare drivers. We do need some protections. I'm not saying we need to be employees. I do like being an independent contractor, but we're not as independent as an independent contractor should be. And if they're going to treat us, there's a percentage of our work that feels like being an employee. We can't set our rates, right? So there's a percentage of our work that makes me feel like an employee, and I would like a percentage of employee benefits if that has to be the case. So it can go back and forth. I'll show you what I said. I think I had a great response, but let's get through this. Additionally, on Tuesday, Lyft also announced it was launching a partnership with one of the most prominent groups representing drivers, the Minnesota Uber and Lyft Drivers Association, MOLDA. That's an okay acronym. I give it a B minus. In order to help navigate technical and disciplinary issues, including translating for East African immigrants and providing assistance in appealing their case if they get kicked off the platform. I assume there's a lot of East Africans in this community. That's very specific. Moldo provides an important voice for its members, and this collaboration is an opportunity for us to work on different issues facing the driver community. Lyft is excited to be moving forward with Molda. You're only doing it because it was. I hate when they put out statements like, "Oh man, yeah, this was our plan the whole time." That's not the case. So that's like a forever happening thing in Minnesota. Every week, Minnesota is doing something that deserves to be on the podcast. So every week we talk about Minnesota in the house. But let's go to DoorDash Santiago. It was here. Sergio was on the podcast as well. So we'll
and
listen
DoorDash
for
a lot
bit.
of money is they'll send it to the further away restaurant versus the close location. The customer should not be allowed to.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm going like, how the fuck did this work? All this work, and most of the time without too many problems. I mean, look, everybody's problem here.
The way it's planned,
the legislation that we should propose initially to start with is Stephanie type of legislation. Full transparency. Customer knows what I'm making. I know what the customer is paying. Full transparency when it comes to delivery address. None of this hidden bullshit back and forth stuff. And maybe supposed to. That's a good point.
Yeah, like, go ahead.
And then I'm going to open it back up to you guys.
Just about to pass it off
to kind of round it out. But I want to get Money Talk with Tristan's perspective on tonight's convo. Welcome to the channel. What do you got to say?
Why is it so low? There's nothing I can really do about it. That's fine. So the question is, what are my opinions on if government should be involved, or should we just let things be? And this is my response. Thank you. I'm gonna start by kind of like analyzing both sides. We have the government, and then we have rideshare. So as far as the government goes, sometimes they'll put out good meaning legislation, and it doesn't always get executed the way it's planned. But I would say, sometimes they put out some good stuff and it works. Sometimes they put out some good stuff and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But with rideshare, Uber and Lyft have both stated in their press releases that their intention is to replace us with self-driving cars. Now, you might disagree with whether they can successfully do it or if they'll be able to achieve the cost goals to make that happen. But we're working for companies that have literally already said they want to replace us. And you can't just skip over that, right? So the thing I kind of want everyone to take a step back and really consider is, what is your rideshare exit plan? Even if you want to be a rideshare driver for as long as you can be a rideshare driver, you should have an exit plan that's in your back pocket, whether that means saving up the correct amount of money or getting the right certifications to do a transition. I know this job is great, but you have to have that plan baked in because these companies have already said that they want to get rid of us. And even if the government creates a law, which I do think we do need to be protected from Uber and Lyft, they can take advantage of us. As for how much protection, that's up in the air, but they could come up with something we think looks good on paper and screws us off. And if you don't have that exit plan, we're screwed. So I think that was awesome. I need to do more of these. I actually had a lot of fun in this. He does this every Sunday. I don't know what time it starts, but jump in. It was a good time. I have it on in the background while I was editing. He started inviting people up, and I jumped up there. Sergio responds to what I had to say.
Great. Tristan, one thing that I honestly doubt that the AVs are going to be coming around anytime too soon, because if you think unit economics is bad when it comes to DoorDash and Uber and Lyft without owning any of the asset, okay, they can hardly turn profit without owning any of the asset. They don't own.
All right, so we'll stop there. I don't want to go too long with this, but he's a lot of people. Whenever I make the point of autonomous vehicles, people think they're not going to happen, and my response to that is it's already happening, right? We may not be replaced right now, and they are testing it, and we're seeing the issues, and we laugh at them, but just be aware If there are 5 self-driving cars on the road, that can make the difference between surges popping up and not popping up, right? And I have a video here. I already have like that's not the video I want to show you, but uh Jeff Uber AZ, another YouTuber, he drives in Arizona and they're testing Waymo in Arizona, and he says there are hundreds of them. He said they were literally approved to be driven on the highway recently, and even if they're only taking short rides, they're lowering the overall demand of passengers, which affects surges, which affects driver saturation. You guys, like on Facebook, I see drivers get upset all the time when they share numbers because they're all worried about other drivers hopping on. Here we have autonomous cars already operating in certain markets. Now they've lost their license in certain markets. They're still thriving in other markets. There's gonna be that pull and push of it, right? Before it gets regulation and all that. But even if we set all of that aside, all of it, Uber and Lyft have stated that they want to replace us with self-driving cars. If you're trying to be a long-term rideshare driver, or if you're a driver who doesn't have an exit strategy, you should be worried. I'm not making this stuff up. I can go and find their press release right now of like, I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to waste the time. But they have press releases saying, it's their plan to become autonomous. Why are we ignoring that? We can't ignore that. Like, you have to have a backup plan. But, I just want to share that with you guys. Oh my God, my mouse. Hold on. I need to return this mouse. I paid like $80 for it, guys. All right, so I'm going to check the comments real quick. Real quick. Tomcat says, but just be careful that if you hit something on driving and made a leak, it's the end of life for that engine. Yeah, I agree with you. The Fushimoto valve, it has like, it's like a 3-tier locking system, right? You have to push down exponentially just to twist it open. And then it also comes with a bracket that, so let's see if we can get this camera to cooperate. So you have to push down on the lever and then twist and push. And it's like, I'm pushing with a lot of force right now and I still can't get it to go. Like it's not like it requires a lot of tension. Like something has to like stay there for it to like to come. Like you'd have to get like a rock lodged up here that stays there and then pulls down. And then also comes with a clip, safety clip that you can attach to make it so that something would have to knock this out, and then after it's knocked out, it would have to lodge itself in there to keep itself down. They now, of course, here can be an issue. They do have like rings, gaskets, so you just want to make sure that that's never leaking. So when you first install it, when you first install it, you just want to make sure that this part isn't leaking. If it's not leaking, I think you'll be good to go. And I change my oil pretty frequently, and I'll be able to continue checking. But he is correct. But alternatively, if you use the little nuts that are on the oil drain pan, if you strip them, now you need a new oil drain pan, and that's expensive. It's real expensive. David Cox says later. I enjoy the channel. Appreciate you. Ron is here. You're a little late to the party, Ron, but I appreciate you coming. We are with the government and we're here to help. Run away, run away. Was that Nixon who said that? I heard that quote recently this week. Drake K says 2 racks a week. That has to be the goal at minimum. If I want to make 100K this year, I need to make at minimum 2 racks a week. And there's gonna be some weeks where I try to make $3,000 just for YouTube. I'm gonna work a bunch of hours, try to make $3,000. I was gonna try to do it last week. It would have been hard. It was hard. It was slow, and I could have done it, but I would have had to work like crazy hours, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I just wasn't up for it. But I'm gonna try it soon. I'll probably try it in March, or you know what? I'm gonna try it Valentine's week. I'm not striking. I have goals that I want to hit, and therefore I'm not gonna risk losing money on the busiest day of the week. I know some people might feel away because of that, but my personal finances honestly come before anyone else's finances. I'm sorry. I support you guys who want to strike. I just don't think you should strike if your finances aren't together. I'll maintain that. I'm actually going to double down on that. Drake says, man, just drive and get your money. I like it. I like it. All right, so let's move on. All right, so next we have the settlement funds. So all of these first articles are going to be based off of driver pay. I try to keep them categorized and similar. Uber and Lyft drivers will soon be able to apply for settlement funds from historic lawsuit. That's just let's
financial hardships. There's no application process for the program. Impacted New Yorkers will automatically be notified that their debt has been relieved. Drew Mahalik.
This isn't it. That's not the same story. Thousands of rideshare drivers in New York City will soon see some money heading their way. New York Attorney General Letitia James announced Thursday that drivers will soon be able to apply for settlement funds stemming from a historic lawsuit. In November, Uber and Lyft agreed to a $328 million settlement for not properly paying drivers for years. Beginning March 1st, those drivers will be able to apply for back pay. All rideshare drivers will also start receiving paid sick leave and minimum pay rate. This is all cool stuff. But going back to the video where I was talking to on Pedro's channel, the more, like, if there's a minimum pay rate and people are getting paid sick leaves, non-rideshare drivers are going to hear that and want to become rideshare drivers. So that can affect the supply and demand, right? Here's a legislation that is positive on paper that could have negative repercussions. Now, not thankfully, but circumstances would have it that New York has a cap on how many rideshare drivers there can be. So in a city like New York City, this is actually, pretty good. There might be other negatives we're not aware of, only time will tell. But enacting this policy in a city that doesn't have a cap on rideshare drivers is only going to flood the market more than it's being flooded now. So that's something to think about when we hear the government. Just keep in mind the things that we want on paper don't always work out well. So just keep that in mind. Short article. Short article. Before I move any further, I forgot there was a correction on a story that I have to make. I made a huge math error on one of my videos that I did last week. And I absolutely have to address it. So it's this one. So there's a driver who $10,000 in he made where's it at? He made $110,000 from Uber and Lyft in 2022, but he only took home $14,000. Now in the video, when I was calculating his mileage rate, I calculated it on his gross, and I'm gonna redo the math now. And I even made a mistake with the math. I got nervous doing my math live, so I'm gonna redo it, right? So we don't know what Uber and Lyft's cut of this is, right? And for the sake of this math, I'm going to give them a gracious 40-60% split. I'm going to assume that they gave the driver 60% and that they only took 40%. Now, you and I know that's not really the case. It's kind of the opposite. But when I'm making a point, I rather give the benefit of the doubt to the statistic that's more likely to harm my point, right? So I'm assuming the driver was paid better, which means that he would be taxed more. So it works against the point that I'm trying to make right now. Or does it? All right, we'll just do 50-50. We'll say Uber takes 50, driver gets 50, right? Is that fair? That we'll work on that assumption. So $110,000, and we want to divide it by 2. That's 50%, right? So let's say the driver took home $55,000 after Uber and Lyft took their cut, but like before taxes and expenses. So typically speaking, a driver has to work. The average driver, rideshare driver, makes 80 cents per mile. I showed you the graph in the actual video. I'm not going to go look it up now. So it's 80 cents per mile. So in order to figure out how many miles he would have had to drive in order to make $55,000, we'd have to divide that by, what is that, 0.6? I think it was 0.655. That's the standard mileage deduction rate. So we'd have to drive 83,000 miles in order to make 55,000 miles if he's an average driver and only makes 80 cents per mile. No, see, I did that wrong. I messed up the math already. So $55,000, and we're dividing by the 80 cents, not the mileage deduction rate. So he makes 80 cents per mile. So you would have to drive 68,000 miles, 68,750 miles in order to make 55,000, in order to make, oh my God, I'm gonna say it again. He has to drive 68,750 miles in order to make $55,000. Now we know we're assuming he drove 68,000 miles. Now we would multiply that by the standard mileage deduction rate of 0.655, which was the deduction rate back in whatever year this was, 2022. So he would get a tax write-off of $45,000 against his taxable income. So we already know, we're already assuming Uber and Lyft took 50%. That's a deduction, and he was left with, what was that number? See my history. He was left with $55,000. So we say $55,000 gross, subtracted by his standard mileage deduction number that we just calculate, which is $45,000 and change. That brings his now taxable income to $10,000. And the reason I'm pointing out this mistake is because the mistake I made gave him a higher taxable income, right? So I did the math down here in the comments, right? So I said I made a huge mistake. Someone pointed out that my American math is bad, and I took it on the chin. But I'm gonna be honest with you, mental math, I'm okay with it, but doing it live, and then like I'm always trying to like not make mistakes because I cut these videos up and I put them out. But so I did make the mistake, and he was right. So I made a huge mistake. If the driver made $110,000 and averaged 80 cents per mile, that means he drove 137,000 miles. That's because I didn't calculate Uber and Lyft take, which would give him a deduction of 90,000. So I wanted to make sure I did a proper correction to this story, because even after my it's closer to this, right? He's saying he only made 14,000 after expenses and taxes. And there's other write-offs that he could have too. Just because you use the standard mileage deduction doesn't mean you're not going to have other write-offs. Your cell phone bill isn't counted in the standard mileage deduction. I have a business phone just for Uber and Lyft, and I have a personal phone. So I can write off 100% of my business phone plan in addition to using the standard mileage deduction. A lot of drivers are under the assumption that if you use the standard mileage deduction, you can't claim anything else. But the standard mileage deduction only claims typical car maintenance, oil changes, gas. I don't know about insurance. If you get seat covers, that's not counted in the standard mileage deduction. You can deduct that. So be aware of those things. Go and research what those things are and aren't. Maybe I'll make a video about it. Maybe I won't. But it was important for me to do that correction. I'm going to be wrong sometimes. It'd be like that. All right, let's move forward. We got 20 minutes. Okay, so we're going to talk about Seattle. Seattle is one of the places that, they just changed their pay structure for rideshare drivers. So we need to be paying attention to this as these things are happening. Seattle is different from New York City in that they don't have a cap. New York has a cap, but their changes are very outside of the cap. The changes to the pay structure are very, very similar. So it's important to see what's happening here in these cities, because they're likely to trickle down into other cities like Minneapolis, right? Drivers for delivery apps like DoorDash and Instacart are now entitled to minimum pay in Seattle based on a lawsuit that took effect Saturday. Mayor Bruce Harrell is celebrating the law that the city council passed in 2022 with the aim for boosting wages for gig workers, while app companies are blasting the policy and citing it as a reason to raise fees on customers. I want to take a second and point out that even when we protest, we go out there, we make noise, and those noises create change. The change can take a long time to happen. So if you're just chilling back and hoping Uber and Lyft change over the next year instead of trying to figure out an exit plan, you're only doing yourself a disservice. The government moves very, very slow, and always do what you can first, and then hope for the long term, but in the short term, you just have to do what you can to have an impact on your business. Designed to help workers delivering meals, groceries, and packages through apps make the equivalent of Seattle's minimum wage or more. I'm reading that again. Designed to help workers delivering meals, groceries, and packages through apps make the equivalent of Seattle's minimum wage or more, the law requires app companies to pay at least 44 cents per minute plus 74 cents per mile during orders, or $5 per order when an order would otherwise pay less. That was a very long sentence. They're saying that at minimum, a food delivery person is going to make $5, regardless of the cents and the minutes. I don't know why they phrased it that way. 44 cents per minute. I don't even know what a good minute is for like food and delivery, because it's so low, it's kind of like irrelevant. Because we drivers and food delivery people, we make our money on miles. That's why I'm saying if you're in traffic, you're losing money, because driving 10 miles for a short period of time is more efficient than driving 10 miles in traffic because of how our pay structure is. 74 cents per mile for food, I think is great, right? We just said that the average rideshare driver is doing 80 cents per mile, and rideshare drivers typically get paid more than food people. So if they're bringing up that and that's that minimum base rate, I think this is a good law for current food deliveries if it doesn't flood the market with more drivers. The city's regular minimum wage of $19.97 per hour for employees at large companies hasn't been directly applied to delivery app drivers, whom companies have treated as independent contractors, because we are independent contractors, right? That's the whole debate that we had on Pedro Santiago's podcast. Many thousands of people work on apps in Seattle, the city has said. Neither of the Seattle council members who originally championed the pay up law, Lisa Harbaugh and Andrew Lewis, are still in office. Harbaugh declined to seek re-election last year, and Lewis was unseated by challenger Bob Kettle. But Harbaugh hailed the law's implementation in a statement Friday, describing gig workers as a critical to Seattle's economy, and saying the policy would help give them the stability and support needed to succeed in our city. Stephen Marchese, director of the Seattle Office of Labor Standards, called the law an important step forward in the city's pioneering effort to create a gig economy that empowers businesses, workers, and consumers alike. Major delivery service companies are criticizing the new law, with several announcing app changes and casting blame on the city in recent days, which leads us into the next story, where there's already a story about how these food delivery companies are increasing fees, right? So this is an example of how something could look great on paper, but it might be bad overall. It could lead to less orders because people don't want to pay these fees, or they may continue paying these fees. So let's see how it's shaken out in New York City. Delivery workers want a mandate raise from New York City. Now they say that apps figured out a way to undermine it, right? So this is how even the government could force Uber and Lyft to do something, and then Uber and Lyft can find out a way to circumvent it in a way that harms drivers or passengers. After a protracted fight in the courts, a historic law took effect in December aimed at securing fair compensation for the 65,000 gig workers in New York City that enable food delivery services to stay in business. The law forces DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats to pay their workers a minimum of $17.96 an hour, or the equivalent if they opt to pay per delivery trip. By April 2025, another pay increase will bring their hourly wages up to nearly $20 an hour. The minimum pay law is the first of its kind in the country and could be a major coup for delivery workers who previously earned only about $7.09 an hour, excluding tips, according to a report by the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. As individual contractors, delivery workers lack even basic labor protections and must shoulder the additional cost of gear and repairs. I'm making about the same amount or more working just a few hours compared to what I used to make working a whole day, says William Medina, one of the lead organizers for Spanish word, Deliveristas, not a Spanish word, Unidos is a Spanish word, a coalition of delivery workers that was driving a force behind the law. I started during the pandemic. I like to call myself a pandemic rideshare baby, and I didn't know what the world looked like in rideshare before the pandemic, but I recently spoke to one of the viewers here on the channel, and he said now feels just like how it was right before the pandemic. So we need to accept that what we experienced in the pandemic is not normal. It was a great time, but it is not normal. And we have to face that reality sooner. And a lot of drivers are struggling with that. Another delivery worker, Alejandro, says he can now earn $100 in about 4 hours when it used to require 10 hours of work. Okay, so he's saying now that there has been a change, he used to take 4 hours to make $100, which is $25 an hour. Now, and to make that amount used to cost him 10 hours of work, man, I make $25 an hour on a bad day here in my market. Okay. Across social media, delivery workers are sharing screenshots of their weekly earnings and urging their peers to drive safely rather than scrambling to complete orders. A lesser known service called Relay Delivery is currently exempt from the law per an appeals court ruling because it uses different models that solely focus on getting food from restaurants to customers. So we're seeing an effect here of, I'm not gonna say it's good or bad. This is an observation. We're seeing drivers encouraging other drivers to take their time so that they can kind of milk the clock is what we would call it, back in employee world. Let's see what these screenshots look like. We will see what those screenshots look like when that webpage loads. We'll keep moving forward. Just weeks after minimum pay was introduced, however, delivery workers are fighting to hold onto their gains. The law was designed in part to account for the rules imposed by delivery apps, which can penalize workers for long delivery times or limit when they can log on. But delivery workers claim these issues have been exacerbated, a move that many of them see as a direct response to the minimum pay requirements. This is exactly what people would fear, that if we became employees and we were given a schedule, this is kind of a schedule, right? If it's too busy and you can't sign on, DoorDash does this, then what was the point of increasing the pay, right? You might be making more per hour for the time you work, but you might not have access to work as many hours as you want. And that part would hurt me a lot. That would hurt me a lot. And that's okay. I'm not saying I'm the goalpost for these laws, but I'm just observing. I think that these laws will help underperformers and hurt overperformers, right? And I think the people who watch my channel should be overperformers, and these laws would help hurt them. And despite that observation, that doesn't mean that I don't think underperformers still deserve better pay. So that's not the point I'm making. I think rideshare is a great transition job. And when you've been transitioned out of your last job, you should do rideshare. I make videos that encourage people to do it. It'd be hypocritical of me to say, no more new people. Bye. It would help my own pocket, sure. But just because something might be detrimental to what I have going on doesn't mean that I am always against it from a macroeconomic standpoint. Like you can compartmentalize how you feel. I can acknowledge that this legislation will decrease how much money I'm gonna make, but this legislation would be great for most drivers, right? Both of those things can be true. The three apps that dominate the New York City market, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, all use some kind of verification process, which requires delivery workers to add information like a government-issued form of identification. But Medina alleges the companies have been cracking down on the process of late, leading some workers to get locked out of their accounts or fail to get approved in the first place. I don't think this is in response to the new law. I do think this is in response to a bunch of illegal immigrants that have come to America and are using other people's accounts, which is why even I've been receiving prompts more often to verify who I am with my face and my license. I don't think those two things are connected. And if you want to make an accurate argument, you need to make sure you're saying accurate things. Many delivery workers have also found that companies are restricting when they can log onto the app, which they claim effectively curbs the number of hours they are able to work. For example, in Grubhub, delivery workers are working 10 to 15 hours a week, Medina says. And obviously this is not enough. In a statement, Patrick Burke, a spokesperson from Grubhub, said, when the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection first proposed a new minimum pay rate for delivery partners, we were clear that it would have unintended consequences that would limit work opportunities for couriers and reduce the number of orders restaurants receive. Grubhub has taken steps to comply with the new minimum pay rate for delivery partners in New York City while still operating a substantial business given the added cost to operate in the market. Two things can be true at once, right? When we're diving into these things, don't turn your black and white head on. Like, two things can be true at once. It can be true that this new legislation is causing demand to be too high to where they have to limit how many drivers can be on the platform at a given time in order for a percentage of the drivers to make actual money, right? That can be true. And it can also be true that they are overreacting to this law as well. From a business perspective, it might be better to overreact and to naturalize as time moves forward than to underreact and not be prepared. So I see both. It's supply and demand. It's basic college economics, which I struggled with initially, but it's basic supply and demand. Like, you increase pay, more people are going to want to start driving. And I don't think there's a limit on food delivery workers. I think there's only a limit on rideshare drivers in New York City. So we're seeing where, we're increasing, we're making everyone earn more money, causing more people to work on the platform. And it's causing the demand to be too high for people to make enough money. So DoorDash, as long as I've had it, has always capped when you can work if it's slow. If it's slow and you didn't sign up for a schedule like an employee, you couldn't go online. So that's not new. They're probably just seeing it happen more often because of the change, right? So I think a percentage of it is like economics, and a percentage of it might be overreacting to the economics. Both things can be true at once. Uber recently rolled out a new schedule system called Planner. Wow. Let me open this up. Let me get through this paragraph. It's going to be rough. Uber recently rolled out a new scheduling system called Planner, which explicitly limits how many delivery workers can be online at a given point, citing new regulations that have changed how delivery apps like Uber Eats work in New York City. The minimum pay law does not require that companies limit access to their apps. Delivery workers in Manhattan have been especially impacted by these maneuvers, Medina says, due to the sheer density of workers. Most of these cases that we've been seeing or observing are from Manhattan because the market is much bigger. He says there's more work and more companies competing to beat each other, so they're being more aggressive to their workers. All right. My seriousness is coming out. I'm gonna read through this, and I think I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna have a lot to say. The experiences reported by workers seem to vary by app. On Grubhub, for example, workers can receive violations if an order takes too long to be delivered. If they rack up 3 violations, their account is deactivated. Lately, Medina and other alleged workers have been getting violations for taking too long to complete deliveries, even if they had no control over the delivery time, because, say, a restaurant delayed the order. It's not our fault if we have to wait 20 to 30 minutes in one restaurant. Medina adds that when workers try to report these issues to the company, they don't care about it. The result, according to workers, is that they have to rush to meet the delivery timeline set by Grubhub, even if it means compromising their own safety. The nature of their work, which often involves weaving through traffic to complete orders on time, leaves delivery workers vulnerable to all kinds of safety issues, from bike thefts to injuries sustained on the job. In 2021, a study conducted by the Worker Institute at Cornell University said, and the Workers' Justice Project, the group that had helped organize Los Deliveristas Unidos, found that of the 500 workers surveyed, 54% of their bike stolen at some point. Across Facebook pages, all right, hold on. They're kind of droning on. Since the pay increase, Grajales says his experience with DoorDash has improved where safety is concerned. He doesn't feel as rushed while using the app and can respect the traffic lights, but the app has made other suitable changes to its interface, most notably moving the tipping prompt so customers are not asked to tip while placing an order. They made that illegal in New York City. The new design is probably going to go nationwide. The new design requires that customers remember to tip after delivery is completed, the effects of which are already being felt by delivery workers who say this change strongly discourages tipping. Medina says they aren't sure if customers are forgetting to tip or opting out altogether, but the impact is clear. We don't know what is happening, he says. But right now, for the majority of orders, the tip is 0. Prior to the wage increase, delivery workers were making about half of their hourly wages through tips, per the DCWP report, which is common. Food delivery workers make more money on tips because the pay is so crappy by these companies. Uber has similarly tweaked its tipping structure. In a statement, an Uber spokesperson said, "We are starting to see the impact of the rule. Fewer couriers working less hours, competing against each other to do more deliveries faster, pretty much what the city predicted would happen in its study." Let me reread that. In a statement, an Uber spokesperson said, "We are starting to see the impact of the rule. Fewer couriers working less hours, fewer couriers working less hours." Does that mean fewer couriers? Does that mean more couriers are working more hours? Why do they phrase stuff like this? Competing against each other to do more deliveries faster. All right, I'm gonna throw this one at AI. The wording is throwing me off, and I want to make sure I'm clear before I respond to this. Clarify this point. Okay, I'm glad I'm not stupid. AI says the point seems contradictory on the surface, as having few couriers working less hours wouldn't normally create competition for speed. To clarify, I need some additional context. Okay, all right. Let's give it some more context, because I want to be extremely clear. Hopefully this is enough context. Here's more context. This is a response to NYC increasing food delivery min wage. Okay. Fewer couriers and less work. Uber sees a decrease in the number of active couriers and the total hours they work. This suggests that some couriers might have dropped out due to reduced profitability for Uber under the higher minimum wage. That doesn't make any sense. Additionally, some couriers might be choosing to work fewer hours to maintain a similar income level. That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Which sounds healthy. Am I wrong? That sounds healthy. I don't. Okay. Competition for available work. With fewer couriers vying for a similar number of deliveries, the competition for individual orders intensifies. This pressure to accept and complete more deliveries drives couriers to increase their speed, accept potentially unreasonable orders. This doesn't make sense to me based off of everything I've read so far. This is just not making sense in my head. It's just not. I'm gonna keep going. Policies have consequences, and these changes come as a direct result of the extreme earning standard imposed in New York City, a DoorDash spokesperson said in a statement. The city itself acknowledged that platforms could make changes to our tipping structure to help meet the significantly increased costs, which is exactly what we've done and therefore should come as no surprise. DoorDash has also previously made the argument that the minimum pay rate does not reflect the way the industry operates because DCWP excluded grocery delivery apps such as Instacart from the scope of the law. You mind your business. Don't focus on DoorDash. He's over here trying to get these other companies in trouble. These apps have tried to frame these changes as an inevitability, noting in public statements that modifying the tipping and scheduling functionality is a byproduct of the city's new pay standards for delivery workers. But delivery workers and their advocates point out that many of these moves aren't exactly without precedent. Grubhub and DoorDash already limited access to their apps at certain times to keep supply in line with demand, right? So if you're limiting supply and demand, then that statement Uber put out that we're just fumbling over doesn't make any sense. The advocacy group Justice for App Workers, which also includes drivers from Uber and Lyft, have warned that this would only escalate after the minimum pay law went into effect. Right? So they were doing this before the minimum pay law, and it only makes sense that it would get worse after the minimum pay law. That I can agree with. That makes sense. Our coalition has been sounding the alarm about lockouts for months, and unfortunately, they have already started. The group said in a statement, and just a few months ago, delivery workers recovered $22,000 in lost wages after lodging complaints with the DCWP against DoorDash, alleging the company had withheld payments by locking them out of their accounts over issues with verifying their identification and bank information. Interesting. I didn't know about that. Has it gotten worse? Yes, says Legia Gulapa, the co-executive director of the Workers Justice Protect, but they're using the exact same retaliatory actions they've taken before. They want to send a clear message to workers that minimum pay has consequences, but it does. It actually does. And I'm not saying I'm for or against, but changes cause changes. You know, it's this notion that you can change something and problems don't arise because of it is bad. Now, I'm not saying that we should keep things the same just because problems will arrive. If you change something, then you're going to have to. Life is all about problem solving. You might find a process that's better than your old process, and it's going to come with new problems that you have to problem solve for. But what most people do or expect is that, okay, this change has problems, let's not change. That's not a good solution. But expecting change not to have any problems is also not a good solution, not a good way to handle it. And I think people are being what's the word? Not ignorant. They're being what's the word I'm looking for here? Like it's like they're just I guess they're being ignorant of the fact that, if you want something to change, something has to give somewhere else. Companies have said that they had to change tipping because of minimum pay. That to me doesn't sound right. I don't that's a cap out. So it's like I said, two things can be true. Actual changes can happen because of this law, and this is an example of the companies overreacting. You don't have to change unless there's a law forcing you to change the tips. I don't understand. They don't seem connected to me. There's a lot of things that just don't make sense in this article, and there's some things that do make sense in this article. Companies have said they had to change tipping because of minimum pay. That's false. That's a business decision. I agree with her here. This messaging has been so effective that the minimum pay proposal reported so Discord, even among members of Los Deliveristas, who worried that delivery companies would respond in kind. It's a difficult situation because we need to explain the minimum pay, Medina says, but also we have to explain how they use this kind of retaliation against delivery workers to divide the workforce. Okay. I think that's a great observation. She's saying that these food delivery companies are trying to get food delivery workers to think that because the government made these changes, we had to move where tipping happens. And I will say this now: if there is no government change to where tipping has to happen, then I think these food delivery companies are 100% in the wrong. But I think I remember reading that like it was part of the law. I could be wrong there. I need to go back and double check, but I'm running out of time. With the introduction of laws that regulate the use of e-bikes in New York City, delivery workers are also facing new challenges on the job, expenses that they are expected to foot as individual contractors. That's everyone. I'm gonna run through this. Yeah, so we're pretty much at the end here. It just kind of goes back to what I said. Changes create changes, and government getting involved can look good on paper, but it won't always be executed in a way that makes sense. And so my response to that, my overall response that I really want the people who are watching right now to take in and absorb, whether you think the government should get involved or whether you think that they shouldn't, you need to have an exit plan. Have an exit plan, because we don't know if the things we push for will work out well, right? It could be everything you've ever wanted. The old phrase, be careful what you wish for. It could be everything you've ever wanted and come with things that were not intended, because the market kind of dictates the market. So make sure you have a backup plan. Let me see. Maybe I'll do one more. Good as for the minimum wage. I think we call it there. Unfortunately, there's so much more I want to go through. Maybe I'll come back and do a second live this week, a surprise live, because I really wanna. There's a lot to go through. But it's 6 o'clock EST right now. I'll run through the comments, and then I'm gonna log off after I see what you guys have been up to in the comments. If I find you guys, I hope I didn't close it. I think I closed it. Give me a second. Try to find you guys. Oh, here we go. I found you guys. Okay. Tomcat with the 199. I appreciate it, man. My first super on the live stream. Thank you for the super chat. Happy birthday to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me scroll up. Tomcat says, good point. Thanks. I don't know what point, but good point. I agree. Francisco says, hi there. What a good dash camera you recommend? Thanks. My recommendation for you is to come up with a number in your head, a budget of how many dollars you want to spend, and then get the best camera at that price point. Majority of these cameras use the same camera, the sensor, the camera sensor. They get it from Sony. Majority of them use the same sensor. The thing that changes is the features of the system. I would recommend getting a camera that faces inside, so you're not, if you're ever deactivated for accusations, you can defend yourself. And at minimum, get a front-facing camera. So at minimum, get a camera that faces the front and a camera that faces inside. Now, you have cameras that face the front, inside, and back. I don't really do the back because I feel like a police or insurance can determine if something is or isn't my fault based off of the front camera. If my car isn't moving, right, and someone hits me in the back, even though I don't see that the actual impact, I think by the front camera they can tell that I wasn't moving or that I wasn't reversing. So that's why I say at minimum get a front camera and internal camera. I've been deactivated from Lyft. A passenger accused me of locking her in my car and being sexual with her. Thank God I had the dash cam. I had that video on my YouTube channel, and without that dash cam, I probably wouldn't be here making videos for you guys about Lyft. And then like a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, a guy with a dog said, I gave him a hard time because he had a dog. That the dash cam determined that was a lie. These passengers will do things to get free rides. So just get the dash cam that's within the budget that makes you comfortable. I made a mistake and I got a $750 dash cam, and don't do that. I will never pay that much money for that same dash cam again. It's a good dash cam, but you're paying for the features, not for the sensor. The sensor isn't going to change. Buy the cheapest thing at your budget that gets the job done, right? That's how you maximize your profit. I made a mistake. I got it when I first started, and I'm not gonna say I do regret paying that much for it. I don't regret getting a dash cam. If I got another dash cam, it would be significantly cheaper. And maybe I'll make a video soon about what dash cam I would get moving forward. But just get what you can afford, man. Get one that has a memory card that can come out. Every day I drive, I pull my memory card out and I put it on my system, because you never know how far back someone's gonna accuse you of something. And then someday, when I don't need Uber and Lyft, I'm gonna create a new channel, and I'm just gonna put them all up there, all the good ones, anyways. Tomcat says, I'm worrying about snapping of the neck because of the material. And that's fair. And I mean, if you lose oil, hopefully your oil lamp, goes off. You just pull over immediately. I don't know. There are some concerns, but I do say do your own research. Jump on Reddit, jump on YouTube, look at other mechanics who have been using this valve, and see what they say. I think that's the best way to go about it. See what they say. Do you have a dash cam? Yeah. So you just heard my dash cam recommendations. I'll quickly show you guys the quality of the dash cam that I have. Right. So YouTube. I don't remember what the video was called. Dash cam footage, Tristan Thomas. Here it is.
With my FICO, I get easy access to credit reports, 24/7.
I'm getting ads. It's because I'm on the wrong YouTube account. Let's go to the correct YouTube account. The reason I got banned by Lyft is so bad that I couldn't even put it in the title of this video. So I actually got banned for why it might be. So when I was accused, they didn't actually tell me which ride it was. They gave me 4 rides to choose from and told me to send them all the rides. So this video is pretty much just me like going through each ride, trying to figure out, what happens.
Behavior. He starts to search for something. He realizes whatever he can't find
And
can't be.
I blurred them all out but you can see this is at night. So this has an IR blaster. I forgot what IR stands for, but some of how remotes work. This is just night vision. The night vision isn't as great as the daytime, but if you want to get something that records inside your car, just make sure that it can see at night. So here's a video. Queen Brown says display ride is $0 upfront and $25 per month. Display ride, all video uploaded to the cloud in real time. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that out. Display ride, interesting. $0 upfront and $25 per month. Per month, I gotta check it out. I'll check it out. But upload to the cloud. That's pretty good, especially if you're not technology savvy. It's pretty good. You guys, I'm logging off. I gotta go and celebrate myself with my wife. But at 7 p.m. EST, which is in less than an hour, hold on, do this off screen. There is a Twitter space where some rideshare drivers that I like a lot. I like hanging out with them. I like talking with them. They're very numbers oriented, and they talk about the bad things, but they're not Debbie Downers. I think you guys would enjoy checking them out. Hold on, Sergio just tweeted at me. And make sure you guys follow me on Twitter. I'm gonna. That was hilarious. Here's my Twitter link. It's in the chat, and then for the Drivers Coast to Coast is what it's called. I'm gonna share that as well with you guys once I find it. Here we go. So, go check it out. If you got some more time, or even if you're driving, I like listening to it while I drive. Other drivers will hop on there and, they'll talk about, what's happening, what they've experienced, how much money they made and things like that. It's a good place to be. Thank you, Francisco. But I'm out of here. I got to go make some sushi with my wife, and I'll catch you. Maybe I'll do a live stream this week to get caught up on my topics. Maybe I won't. Maybe we'll just have a very long one next week, but I'll see you guys next week. Yeah, no problem. And this is the space. I realized I didn't show it on screen. So here it is. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is in less than an hour. So go check it out and go follow me on Twitter. If you guys want to talk to me directly, Twitter or Discord is the best place to do it. You can just at me, or you can DM me if you want to send me screenshots, or if you just want to see what I'm up to. This is a good place to do it. A lot of the news that happens in Rideshare passes through Twitter first. So sometimes I'll upload videos to Twitter. But I'll check you guys out later. I've stalled long enough. It's fun hanging out with you guys. I'll see you guys in the comments. That's not good. That's even worse.